It was a bright Saturday morning in Beverly Hills. The kind where the streets glimmered with luxury cars and ambition. Outside a glass-fronted mansion, a crowd had gathered, people from the neighborhood, curious eyes, and a few influencers live streaming from their phones. At the center of the commotion stood Mr. Leonard Cartwright, a silver-haired millionaire who owned half the car dealerships in Los Angeles. His reputation was as polished as the chrome on his custom-made Ferrari F8 Spider. But behind his charming smile was a man who loved power a little too much, and humility a little too little. That morning, his prized Ferrari sat silent in the driveway. Its engine had died overnight, and none of his mechanics could bring it back to life. Furious and embarrassed in front of guests, Leonard barked orders. "I pay you people to know engines, not to stare at them," he shouted, tossing his designer sunglasses on the hood. The mechanics, mostly young apprentices, shifted uncomfortably, afraid to speak. Then through the gates walked a tall black man wearing a faded jumpsuit. His toolbox balanced on his shoulder. His clothes were worn, and his boots were dusty, but his eyes held calm confidence. His name was David Jackson, a mechanic from the poorer side of town. He'd heard through a friend that the famous Mr. Cartwright was offering $5,000 to anyone who could fix his Ferrari today. That money could cover his mother's hospital bills and pay his overdue rent. But as David stepped closer, Leonard's brows furrowed. "And who are you?" he said, almost laughing. "The gardener's helper. We're dealing with a Ferrari here, not a lawnmower." David kept his cool. "I fix cars, sir. If you'll let me take a look, I might be able to help." The millionaire smirked, amused by the audacity. "You fix this." He gestured toward the sleek, red beast gleaming under the sun. "This car costs more than your house, assuming you even have one." The guests chuckled, their laughter cutting through the air like knives. David didn't flinch. "A machine doesn't care who fixes it, sir. It only cares if the person knows how." The crowd quieted for a moment, sensing his quiet strength. But Leonard, feeling challenged, grinned cruelly. "Fine," he said. "I'll make you a deal. If you can get this car running within an hour, it's yours. But if you fail, you'll wash every car in my garage for free, and I have 30 of them." Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd. The challenge was insane. Nobody believed the man from the wrong side of town could fix what a team of trained mechanics couldn't. But David simply nodded. "Deal." He knelt beside the car, ignoring the murmurs, the laughter, the cameras filming every move. With steady hands, he opened the hood and stared into the intricate machinery. The Ferrari was a masterpiece, but even masterpieces can fail when mistreated. As he worked, sweat formed on his forehead, not from fear but focus. He listened to the silence of the engine, then to his instincts. Leonard stood nearby, arms folded, smirking. "I hope you're enjoying your last few minutes of freedom, my friend," he said mockingly. "You'll look great in a uniform with a sponge." David said nothing. He removed a small tool from his box, adjusted a few wires, and tapped lightly on a sensor panel. He noticed something others had missed, a hairline crack in the ignition module. Something subtle enough to fool diagnostics but fatal to the system. He pulled a spare connector from his kit, one he'd salvaged from an old luxury car he repaired months ago, and began to rewire it. Minutes turned to half an hour. The crowd began to lose interest. Some wandered off, whispering that the poor guy bit off more than he could chew. Leonard chuckled to his guests, "You see, there's a reason some people stay in their lane. This man's wasting my time." Then, without warning, the Ferrari's engine roared to life, loud, pure, and smooth as thunder. The sound silenced the entire street. People froze, mouths open, phones lifted. David stood, wiping his hands with a rag, his expression calm but proud. "She's running fine now," he said quietly. Leonard's jaw dropped. For a moment, he said nothing, his ego scrambling to catch up with reality. His guests began to applaud, some cheering, others shouting in disbelief. The live streamers zoomed in, capturing every second. The millionaire's humiliation was trending before he even opened his mouth. You must have done something before," Leonard stammered. "No one could have found that issue so fast." David gave a small shrug. "When you love engines, you listen to them. They talk, if you know how to hear." Someone in the crowd shouted, "He fixed it fair and square. Give him the car." Laughter and clapping followed, turning the tension into excitement. Leonard's face turned red, realizing he'd boxed himself in with his own arrogance. He looked at the Ferrari, his pride, his symbol of success, then at David. "I was joking," Leonard said quickly. "I didn't mean." David interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "You said it in front of everyone, sir. A deal's a deal." Phones were recording. The crowd began chanting, "Give him the car. Give him the car." Leonard's reputation hung in the balance. If he backed out, his name would be plastered online as a liar and a racist. Finally, through gritted teeth, Leonard tossed the keys toward David. "Fine," he said bitterly. "Take it. I can always buy another." David caught the keys, but instead of smiling, he paused. He walked to the car, admired its shine for a second, then placed the keys back in Leonard's hand. "I didn't fix your car for the prize," he said. "I fixed it to remind you that respect isn't measured in dollars or engines. It's measured by how you treat people." The crowd erupted into applause. Leonard stood frozen, embarrassed beyond words. David picked up his toolbox and began walking away. "Wait," one of the guests shouted. "Man, that was incredible. Do you have a shop?" David turned and smiled. "Just a small one downtown, Jackson Auto Repairs." Within days, that moment became viral. The clip of the millionaire's humiliation spread across every platform, captioned, "Never underestimate a man with skill and dignity." Customers began flooding David's shop, celebrities reached out for repairs, and car magazines called him the man who made a Ferrari sing. As for Leonard, he quietly withdrew from the spotlight for a while. But weeks later, he visited David's workshop, unannounced. He stood awkwardly near the door, watching David help a young apprentice learn wiring. Finally, he spoke. "You were right," he said softly. "I judged you by the wrong things. I was the one who needed fixing." David wiped his hands and extended his arm. "We all break down sometimes, sir. What matters is if we choose to rebuild." They shook hands, two men from different worlds, one humbled, one vindicated. And from that day, Leonard became not only a customer but a quiet investor in Jackson Auto Repairs, helping David expand his small garage into a full-scale workshop, employing young mechanics from underprivileged neighborhoods. The story became more than a viral moment, it became a movement. Proof that talent has no color, and humility is the true mark of wealth. So if you're watching this story, remember, greatness doesn't come from your possessions. It comes from your perseverance, your heart, and your refusal to give up when the world doubts you.